Merlin Sports.
Hey everyone, this is Phenomenon from Merlin Sports, and with me today is D-Dog.
What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm pretty good. I hope you're well. And today we're going to be breaking down a NHL playoffs. We're going to focus on the Western Conference to start, and I'm excited. We're just around the corner. Playoffs start this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, round one. And all the matchups are set. So now we can preview each series, see who we think is going to come out, and also who we think is going to come out of the conference. So, like I said, we're going to start out west, and we start with the President's Trophy winners this season, the Winnipeg Jets, number 1 seed. They will take on the second wild card, which is the St. Louis Blues. Why don't I just name off all the series and then we'll circle back with the Jets and Blues. Then Dallas, the number 2 seed, home ice against Colorado Avalanche. And from the other division, the Vegas Golden Knights finish first in that division, and they'll draw the first wild card, which is Minnesota Wild. And then a familiar sight has the LA Kings hosting the Oilers in the other matchup. So let's circle back to the Jets and Blues. And as I already mentioned, the President's Trophy is a solid season for the Jets. And then the Blues coming in on a heater to close the last quarter of the season to push themselves in the playoff contention. So you have the big team against the team that got hot at the right time. So who do you like in this series?
It's an interesting matchup, actually. The Jets, President's Trophy winners, which doesn't guarantee you a whole hell of a lot. The Boston Bruins, Florida Panthers, both won the President's Trophy and lost in the first round. But the Jets have been the best team all year. It's not like they got hot at the end or, hot in the middle of the season. They've been consistent the entire season. I mean, they had a little bit of a slump, and they got some stuff to prove. I mean, when we get to the Eastern Conference, you have the Leafs with, their fans, and they think they have a lot to prove too. The Jets are another team with a lot to prove because they've made the playoffs consistently the last few seasons, but they haven't gone very far. I think the farthest they went was the second round. So that's going to be an interesting series. You got the goaltending from the Four Nations face-off, and you know what Bennington can do in the net for the St. Louis Blues. Hellebuck has struggled in the playoffs, but I'm going to pick the Jets to come out this time. They've had their number all season. It's been very tight games. But like I said, they have a lot to prove, and St. Louis is an interesting team because they were in the midst of selling off, and then they realized, hey, we can compete for a playoff spot. So they stayed the course, didn't sell off a lot of any of their big time players like Shen and stuff. But this is a Stanley Cup winning team from a little while back, but they still got some guys on that team. They're mentioning their goaltending, but. I'll this time I'll pick the President's Trophy winners and to come out of that series.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of good points. That being that for all the great regular season Hellebuck's had recently, and I think this year, I think he's a consensus Vezina Trophy winner this year. He might even get some votes for the Hart Trophy in this season as well. For as dominant as he's been in the regular season, he has been average at best, if not worse, in the playoffs. And, so there's a lot of pressure on Winnipeg, I think, not falling into that. And Hellebuck in particular, not like reverting back to ghosts of playoffs past. And then the Blues are red hot. And, there's still a lot, they're not that far removed from winning the cup. And in that season, they also caught fire near the end, and Binnington, absolutely turned into a stalwart and backed them to the cup. So, it's not. We've kind of seen this posturing before by St. Louis. However, I'm with you. I'm going to pick the Jets. They'll have home ice, which will be, pretty much 99% pro Jets. There's not really too many visiting teams that can travel fans wise into Winnipeg. And the Jets will definitely have the home building rocking, and I think that there's just too much there's too much firepower on the Jets, and also they've built a solid defense, and I think they will overmatch the Blues and take that series. But I expect the Blues to put up a fight, though. It's not going to be they're not going to walk through the Blues. So that
they've had close games all season, so it's not like one team has dominated the other. They went overtime a couple of times.
Yeah, and Blues still they have a little bit of that muscle memory from that cup victory. So Binnington's the same goalie. So I think a tough out, but the Jets will prevail in my mind. So the winner of this series, they play the winner of the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche. And right away we have two heavyweights. Just by the format of the NHL playoffs, sometimes it's inevitable that two heavyweights have to face off in the first round. I think talking about maybe 1st through 8th playoffs like it was years and years ago, that could be a topic for another day. But you got the Stars and Avalanche, and this is a clash of titans here. Who do you like in this one?
This is another. I think this one's going to be a little bit harder to deal with in terms of predictions, but obviously we're here to predict. So, but I'm going to take the Dallas Stars to come out. They've beaten the Colorado Avalanche the last 2 seasons. They plot a very hard fought series last year that Dallas won in 6, although Colorado caught fire early and won the first couple games. But Dallas, they're built for the playoffs. They know how to win. They're built for the playoffs. They just can't get over the hump as it gets further on in the playoffs. They're, I think part of it's because they're a slightly older team. They might be hurt. They might be hurt by. I don't know if Iskinen's coming back. If I recall, he was out for the season. But they might be hurt by that. Obviously, they lost Chris Tanev from last year. He's on Toronto, and that guy's a beast. But something about Dallas, they know how to play in the playoffs. And the first couple rounds for them, they get by that. It's the conference finals that they seem to get held up in. So I like the Dallas Stars to come out of the Colorado. But I think it's gonna be a 7-game series. I don't think it's gonna be a walk in the park by any measure. I think it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be this might be one of the best series of the first round, just because you have two powerhouses going at it. I like the Stars lineup. I think they have a little more depth, and you add in Jake Ottinger as a goaltender. Even he hasn't had a spectacular season by his standards, but their backup is Casey DeSmith, and he's been capable when he's got in the lineup this year to backstop Ottinger. So I like that 1-2 more so than Colorado's goaltending. Although Colorado's goaltending, they made some upgrades during the year to retool their goaltending on the fly, and it's been pretty successful. So, but I think just that Dallas has the edge in goaltending, and I think Dallas has a little more depth. And even without Heiskanen, their defense is still pretty solid. But I should state that the two best players are on Colorado. So there could be the great equalizer. The best forward, period, is Nathan McKinnon on both teams. The best defenseman, actually, in my opinion, the best defenseman in the whole league, Cale Makar. So you got the two best players on Colorado, but overall, I think Dallas has more depth up and down the lineup, and including the goaltending. And when you take that into account, I like Dallas to come out on top, and I agree it's going to be a hard-fought series. Go at least 6, probably 7 games. So. Okay, interesting. So we have the Stars and the Jets both coming out. Now let's shift to the other division in the Western Conference. The first matchup is Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Minnesota Wild. So maybe I'll start off this one just to change it up a bit. So Vegas claimed another division title, and they were solid all year. They have a veteran lineup. And they're pretty closely removed from winning their first and only Stanley Cup. I do see some cracks in Vegas though, because being an older team, they had a lot of injuries down the stretch here, and a lot of it is giving a lot of veterans rest. But I just worry, health wise for Vegas. And I'll get back to that in a second. I want to bring up like Minnesota Wild, who like steady team, not spectacular team, but they kind of grinded it out. And I think the X factor for Minnesota for me is Kirill Kaprizov. They got this guy back basically about a week ago, so maybe with 2 weeks to go before the end of the season, and he's kind of picked up where he left off, and he was on a torrid pace before he got injured. I mean, and I think he gives them a boost for the Minnesota Wild, and they've had pretty solid goaltending. I think the better team is Vegas on paper, and having that Stanley Cup experience, certainly helps them. But you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild are going to upset the Vegas Golden Knights and take down the number 1 seed in the division. In the Pacific Division. So what says you, D-Dog?
Well, that's a bold prediction there, my friend. It's pretty surprising, but I think I think we'll disagree on this one, because I like the Vegas Golden Knights to win this series. They've pretty much handled Minnesota all season when they played. Vegas, yeah. I mean, even last year when they played Dallas, like they were in that series. They won the first 2 games, and they were, I think, a little bit more injured last year, coming off the Stanley Cup. But they know how to win. They've won the Stanley Cup. They've been in a precarious position in terms of like the NHL set them up nicely to be successful. Unfortunately, Seattle has paid the price for that success. But Vegas and Winnipeg have been the 2 best teams all season in the West, and they're in a tough division. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the Western Conference itself is like a bloodbath across that whole conference, because I look at there could be 5-6 teams that can win the Stanley Cup, right? It's unbelievable. Whereas I can't say that for the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's 5-6 teams that can win the Stanley Cup, right? Probably about 2 or 3. Probably about 3 teams at most, maybe 4. But I like Vegas. I think they're now for business. This is something that that they know what to do to get through the season, and now they're focused on the playoffs, and I think they'll take it. I don't even think it's gonna be a long series either. I think it's gonna be like a 5-game series.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that's a pretty good breakdown. Agree to disagree,
Of
and
course.
yeah, that's what it's all about. And now,
Exactly.
yeah, and now we head to the last series of the Western Conference, which is kind of the most familiar, which is except it might be inverted. I think last year Oilers had home ice, but this year LA Kings have home ice and they're hosting the Edmonton Oilers in a very familiar matchup. I think they've met 3 of the last 4 seasons. Maybe I have to look that up. But anyways, like this is a kind of a even I heard fans of both fan bases kind of saying that it's gotten a bit boring. But I would say this: last year, I think Oilers were the favorite, and they took care of LA, and they were the clear favorite in this series. I got to say, this year, especially with injuries to the big two in Edmonton, Draisaitl and McDavid down the stretch, although McDavid's come back, and he's since had he's taken a game off for rest. Draisaitl has not come back, but I think they just want him to be healthy for the playoffs. I think the Kings are the favorite going in this year, just because of the question mark about the health of the superstars in Edmonton. Having said that, I do like the Kings to actually come out this year, and I think just Edmonton, they haven't had that great a year, and injuries to Draisaitl, McDavid. I expect them to be back. Now, they may not be 100%, but stars at that level, even at 80%, are better than most players on the ice. But I just think even like Bouchard have a down year. I think the other wild card is Matthias Ekholm might be a bigger injury concern than the two superstars because of defense.
He's out for the season, right?
He's their number one defenseman.
Yeah, he's out for the season.
He's not. He's been declared out for round 1, so that's the latest injury update, which could be the season if LA wins. I just like LA. I think they had a good year, and they've stayed healthy and they've been consistent. And then also LA has the best, if not the best, in the top 3 of home records this year. So they've been really, really good at home, and having home ice against Edmonton, who is a little bit battered, I think it'll be too much for Oilers to overcome. And also should mention that, Oilers have been searching for, or hoping for Skinner, to just take the reins and have a solid season. And, he's not had a great year this year. So Skinner and Picard, they almost split the season because Skinner has not been, that great this year, below 900 save percentage and, 287 goals against average. So I take all those factors in, and I think in this year's edition of Kings versus Oilers, Kings will come out on top. Who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. They've played each other quite a bit, and it kind of gets old. So, but they're not strangers to each other. They kind of know each other's style. It's going to be a tight checking game. I think the Oilers have suffered all season from the Stanley Cup hangover. So close, and then they lose it in Game 7. I think that hurts, and I don't think they've fully recovered. They lost a few younger guys who actually gave them a shot in the arm last year, and I'm not 100% sure that this team is clicking. I think there's a lot of sort of uncertainty around the core. Zach Hyman didn't have a great year this year. right? I looked at it like he had 27 goals this year. Even Connor McDavid is not up, didn't have up to his his standards, right? I mean, this is a guy that's the best player in the world, and he wasn't leading the league this year in points. He's not even in the top three.
Oh, he missed a lot of games.
Right. I mean, but still, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league, and he finished sixth in scoring. Didn't crack 100 points, probably for like the first time since his rookie season or in around that. Right. I mean, he's usually 100. I mean, he got 99 points, but yeah, I think there's just something off with Edmonton, and they have been struggling, and the Kings have handled them pretty well this season. So I'm gonna go in agreement with you and say the Kings win this series. The Kings still have some guys from their Stanley Cup years too, right? I mean, it's interesting. We can look back and you talk about the last few years of Stanley Cups, but the Kings, you know, in the 2000s, like in the 2010s, they were one of the top teams in the league, and they won a couple Stanley Cups. They don't have the same goaltender anymore, but
right.
they still got some guys from those years.
But
they know how to win.
But how many? Not many. You got
Daddy
and Kopitar.
Yeah, Daddy Kopitar, but still, those are two leadership guys.
Yeah. Right? They're big. They're guys with big impact on that team.
And let's not forget, Drew Doughty missed half the season. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He came back for like 3 or 4 games before the Four Nations, and you could see in the Four Nations, the first couple of games he was a little slower than because he used to have a lot. He was a speed guy. Like he could skate. He was a really good skater, and you can see in the first part of the Four Nations he was a step or two slow, mm-hmm. but he kind of found himself toward the end of the Four Nations.
Yeah,
right, and he he's still one of the best players, one of the better defensemen in the league, right? He knows how to play, and he's very experienced. So I kind of agree. I agree with you. I think the Oilers. I don't think the Oilers. They haven't played to the level that they were playing last year. And if you remember last year, they started off slow, and then had this amazing run for 2 months. Like I think they won like 17, 18 games in a row.
Yeah, right? It just propelled them into the playoffs, playing at that so they high level.
Confident, but they haven't been at that level this year, right? And whether it's just because of the injuries, whether the hangover, hard to tell. It's not like they have a goaltender who's going to steal games for them. So yeah, with that, I agree with you. I'm going with the LA Kings to win that.
Okay. So now that you kind of made your way out of the first round, who do you see as coming out of the Western Conference? So who is going to go to the Stanley Cup representing the Western Conference?
Well, I mean, if we look at it and we're picking based on what we picked, I'm going to take the Vegas Golden Knights that come out. In large part because Dallas hasn't been great all season. They're actually limping into the playoffs. I think they'll get to the Western Conference Finals. I just think they don't know how to close, right? And Vegas knows how to close. They won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, right? And they're a very, very good hockey team, right? And they made it back to back. They didn't go very far last year. They lost to Dallas in the first round, but I think for them, not going very far last year helps them this year, right? If you have long drawn out series, and I think if you see the other side of it, Florida, like they've had 2 grinding years, which becomes very difficult the third year. But so I'll take the Vegas to come out of the West.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good choice. I think this is the year the Jets make a run, and I'm gonna go with the Jets. I know I might be sorry for that because of recent playoffs, but I just think, I just seen them the way that they played in the regular season. I just think it's so dominant, and and offense, defense, goaltending. They just have it all right now. So as long as they stick to the same formula, I think the Jets will advance. They'll beat whatever opponents in front of them. I think this is the year that Winnipeg will come out of the Western Conference and go to the Cup. And I don't think they've ever won a cup. So it would definitely be historic if they. I don't even think they've went to the Stanley Cup. They haven't even made an appearance. So I'm calling the Jets to make their first Stanley Cup appearance.
That's a bold prediction there. I mean, the Jets back in the Smythe division. I mean, they used to run into the Oilers and Flames, who dominated that division for years, right? So, and then they moved to Phoenix, and they just came back, after finally someone realized the Thrashers, it wasn't working in Atlanta again. Shock. But yeah, I mean, it's a bold prediction. They don't have a track record, right? They don't have a track record. That's
sure, but not a bold prediction from being the top overall team in the league.
Nope, that's true.
But
that's true.
Anyways, I think we're in for a good run in the Western Conference, and can't wait till it starts, and we'll break down the Eastern Conference in our next episode. So thanks, D-Dog, for joining us, and you take care. We'll see you in the next preview show.
Thanks a lot, man.